And if nothing else, hey guys. All right, let's see. Okay, that is a much better. Okay. All right, we have a little bit of a lag, but we are good to go. Hey guys. Okay, right, we are getting ready to get into the sauce. Come on in. If you see me, like and share, like and share, like and share. Okay. Hey guys. Hey guys. We are here. We are here. Hey guys. All right, we are here. Episode 13. I'm so excited to be here. We are live in Jamaica. My home, away from home. It feels so amazing to be here. I'm so excited to be here and just to kind of feel the vibes. It's been a long week. I just let y'all know it's just been a long week. So I'm so grateful and blessed to be here. Mother's Day weekend. Happy Mother's Day to my mother and all the mothers out there. I'm super excited that we get the opportunity as women to be alive. And so today we are going to be talking about is it you or is it him? Let's clear the traffic in your life. And then, so today's episode is primarily about understanding that not every fight is about the other person. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes you're the one that needs that reality check. And oftentimes we don't know it. So oftentimes we don't pay attention to the fact that you are in the situation you are in because you fail to take accountability. And we don't do it intentionally now. Something that I have learned, and this is why I share with you all that it begins and ends with you, right? Just had to make sure we were good to go. But it begins and ends with you. And what that means is that in every scenario, in every fight, you need to make sure that you are checking in with you, right? You're checking in with you to make sure that you're not the one that is responding to a trigger, right? And sometimes it takes a lot of self-reflection. I could tell you from personal experience that sometimes we don't realize that it's us, right? Because for one of two reasons, we are too busy like blaming the other person. It's so easy for us to look outside for the problem, right? It must be someone else's issue. That's why this thing is happening, right? I know sometimes for me, in my own journey, I have to really stop because I do a lot of reading and I get a lot of information about relationships, right? I do a lot of study on people and how we relate to each other and relationships, right? And sometimes it gets in the way of me relating, right? And it really causes a problem. and and so we really need to get back to that place where we start looking at ourselves, right? So some of the tips to do that, one of the things, first thing I do is I say to myself, are you responding to a trigger, right? Like for example, you guys you know get into an argument, right? And the arguments usually start off because someone is not feeling either heard or appreciated or valued in the relationship, right? And it's important to like pay attention to that. Just driving here today, right? So y'all know teenagers, right? Well, my son is going to be 21, so he's not necessarily a teenager, and but just driving here this morning, right? He waited till the last minute to get what he wanted to get on the trip. Right now, I am secure and anxious attachment style. So, because I get anxiety, I need to plan things out, and everything needs to go according to the plan. Y'all feeling me? Because when the plan doesn't work, then things starts falling apart in my head, right? I don't work well rushing, and and so for him, though, everything was keen and cool, right? Now, when you're anxious, we tend to respond by just like yelling, right? You're like, ah, you're not hearing me. I got so much things inside of me that I need to get out, right? But really, what we want to say is this behavior is making me feel very anxious. And because I'm anxious, I don't know how to control the emotions that I'm feeling, right? So instead of just like automatically like going off, I just simply said to him, I feel very anxious. Your behavior is causing me to feel anxious, and I don't know how to articulate how I'm feeling. That's why I'm yelling. And just me explaining that emotion alone, that alone diffuse the situation, right? And so, but I first had to start with me. I first had to realize it wasn't necessarily what he had done, right? Because he just really failed, in my mind, failed to plan, but he had it all planned out. He had it all mapped out. It was all good for him. But for me, I was freaking out, right? And so it starts with us. So a lot of times, I say that to say this, a lot of times we need to start with ourselves, right? We need to check with our emotions. How are you feeling? Why are you responding to that stimulus, right? That behavior in that way. And then articulate that to the person that we're with. Because again, we're not mind readers, right? We're not mind readers by far stretch. We are not mind readers, okay? And you cannot realistically expect your person to read your mind. So we have to do a better job at articulating how we're feeling when we're feeling and not be afraid to do so, right? That's another thing, okay? Not be afraid to do so. We need to know when we need to own our stuff, okay? We need to know when to own our stuff, because a lot of the altercations that we get in relationships, we played a role in it, right? We play a role in it. So we need to own our stuff, okay? Own when you're wrong. You shouldn't be afraid to be able to say to the person, you know what? I realized in my reflection that I didn't handle that so well. And so I apologize for that, right? But in order to get there again, you gotta learn to look at yourself. You gotta learn to analyze, your behavior, and understand your behavior. I think this journey has just been so great because it really allowed for a lot of self-reflection. I come to you guys in the most authentic space. At least I try, right? Because I'm learning. I'm going through this process with you, and so I'm learning, right? And it's so it's like every day, like every time, and in every situation, and in every interaction, right? You just get better, and you're growing, because God knows it's really not easy. And like stepping out of, your relationship, I feel like in the dating space, right? We tend to believe that, and we tend to believe that we are perfect, right? A lot of us that are out here, I'm gonna tell you, we believe that we are perfect. Like you get on like that Kevin Samuel show, and you're like, okay, like, what would you rate yourself? And we're all like 10, 10. Yes, girl, 10, right? But really and truly, we're none of us are tens, right? We're all working. We are all a work in progress. Um, and we never want to get to a place where we are like stuck, and not growing. And so, in saying that, I say this, that when you're dating, it's you should be constantly evaluating you, right? Because something that I learned is that the more we interact with people, the more we learn about ourselves. Okay? And so as you're going through this dating process, pay attention, right? Like someone says something to you that, like ticks you off, that's like a trigger, right? Like how do you respond? Like do you just like cut them off? Not speak to them, right? Or do you address the issue? Do you say, hey, um, what your statement that you made the other day, that really, I felt some sort of way about that, right? So are you going through that analysis? Are you looking, are you speaking to them about, how you're feeling, because it's practice. It's great practice. I'm telling you that right now. Like dating is a great way to kind of weed out those communication hangups. Because Lord, I could tell you there are a lot of, we just really don't communicate very well. As human beings, we are horrible at communicating. Okay, and so it's like, use your dating experience as a way to just weed out those bad qualities, right? Improve on your communication skills, right? Another thing is like how we see our like our potential suitors, right? It's I think something that I have realized in this process is that there's a lot people, because we don't do a lot of self-reflection, right? We tend to be very judgmental, right? We don't take the opportunity to understand that there could be a lot of things going on with the other person, right, in their lives, right, and that we don't know about, right? And we make snap judgments and we just, sum it up as, oh, this person is this or this person's that, right? When really and truly, we're the one that has the issue because we're judgmental, right? That's our issue. We lack patience. That's our issue, you know? And so I would just really, just advise away from that. Take a look at yourself while you're dating in that journey and understand who you are and ways that you could improve, right? Because I feel like relationships are just one big examination, long term, lifetime examination on communication. It's a test that never ends on communication. And so the better you are at communicating, the better you will be in your relationship. And so, it's really important for us to do that. Now, something else with respects to checking ourselves is that we need to ask ourselves, are we creating a safe space for our spouses or our significant other, right? Or the person that we're courting? Are we creating a safe space so that they can be themselves? Okay. And so, and ways that you do that is that you take time to really understand that, we're all imperfect. We're all going through this journey together. Right. And, appreciate them for what they bring to the table instead of being so judgmental about what they don't bring to the table, right? Because it's like we don't want to be in a space where we're constantly, because no one, let me just back up and say this, no one likes to be constantly critiqued, right? It's like you get into a space where you're like, nothing is ever right for this person. If I go high, it's a problem. If I go low, it's a problem, right? And so we don't want to create that space for our significant other, or the person that we're courting. We want to make sure that they're able to show up as they are without judgments, right? And just be free to, kind of be in that space, right? Because that's really where the relationship starts, right? When you're able to get below the surface, right? Like I call it going sub-level. When you're able to go sub-level, right? Below the surface, and each individual is able to show up in their authentic self, right? We're really able to connect. And so, and I know it's hard, right? It's very hard for us to not want to critique all the time, right? But something that I learned, and I learned to respect, is that we are who we are, right? And through the eyes of that person, right? They appreciate things if they're healed, and we're talking about healthy people in healthy relationships, right? They've gone through their journey and they have come to one with who they are, right? And so they appreciate things about themselves, right? And they're not going to allow you, who have just been here for part of the journey, right? A fraction of the journey, to come in and to start criticizing them, right? And so we really need to learn to appreciate people for who they are and not want to go in and change anything about them. because something that is just so important in creating that safe space, right, is that if we're constantly berating and yelling and telling them all the stuff that they don't do right, all that energy we're pulling into our lives, right? And so if you don't pay attention, you're going to find yourself in a space where the only thing that you think about is all the things that they don't do. You will find yourself in that space considering, like, all the things that they don't do, right? And you lose appreciation for their value because you've spent so much time critiquing them, and so it's really important for us to check in with yourself, because a lot of times, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, sometimes we show up to the table and we are a hot mess. Okay, a hot miggity mess. All right, and we out here making demands on people. Like, we gotta stop that. We really do. And I say we because women, we're the one that often do that. All right, we're constantly, oh, he got it. You ain't do this. You ain't do that. You ain't do this. Right, all the time. It's like, sis, how about this? Like this. Start here. Start with you. Start with you. Am I doing that? Right? And in kind of jumping space from relationship back to dating, something that we have to do while we're dating is that we out here and we're like, we want the husband and he got to be like, God fearing, and he has to be kind, and he has to be humble, and he has to be, good financial position and all of these things, right? But yet we are not being that wife deserving of that kind of husband, right? It's like we're out here seeking to, I went through Ephesians 5 verses 22 through 32 the other day and talk about husband. It talks about how a husband should love his wife, right? Like he loves himself, right? Like Christ loved the church, right? So sacrificial, right? So it's like that total surrender type of love. And so we expect that love, but we're not out here doing the things that are of a good wife. Are we being supportive? Are we being caring? Are we being understanding? Are we being compassionate? Are we being generous with our time? Are we being nurturing? Are we being supportive? Are we being understanding? Okay? Are you showing up in his life as a wife? And that's something that we have to check ourselves. We have to ask ourselves, are you showing up in his life as a wife? Because if the answer is no, then how can you demand of him to be in the space of a husband? Right? It seems a little bit off balance. A little bit, right? And so we need to make sure that we're checking that, right? Make sure that we're showing up in that space. Always, 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 always start with you, because a lot of things, like I said earlier, starts and ends with you, right? Make sure that, and as we're wrapping up, make sure that you are taking yourself through that checklist. Is this an emotional trigger, right? Is this something that I need to balance within myself, right? Is it just like, is it really worth that argument? Because something that I read recently, it says that for every negative encounter, we need to have at least 10 positive encounters to offset that one negative encounter. So next time you talk about you want to start that argument, ask yourself, is it worth my relationship? For every negative encounter, it takes 10 positive encounter to offset it. And so we need to be cautious. We need to be, just be a little bit more patient, right? And understanding. And I'm not saying that you get out here and start taking mess and garbage, right? There's a difference between understanding and being taken advantage of, right? And, if you don't know what that difference is, I'm going to need you to go back to episode 1 and run this whole thing through to 13, because there is a difference, right? But just pay attention, to how you're responding and how many times, whether or not you can, or am I being kind, right? Am I being understanding? Am I holding on to something that was from the past, right? Because, like 1 Corinthians tells us that love, takes no account of wrongs, right? Wrongdoings, right? So you're not like taking tab like, oh, well, the last time you did da 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 da. No, so we need to make sure that we are showing up in that space, checking yourself, making sure first and foremost that it is not you. Okay? Because none of us are perfect. And if you think that you are the perfect woman, right? Or the perfect man, like you have a hard reality coming your way, because you're not. Okay? None of us are. None of us are. Okay? Even the shrink needs shrink. Okay? All right? Every therapist that I know has a therapist. Okay? So none of us is perfect, right? But a lot of our interactions we could avoid, because you don't have control over the other person. You have control over yourself. You have control over yourself and your emotions. Okay? And the more that we could tap into those emotions and understand those emotions, right, is the better that we will become at relating to the other person. The better that we will become at, conflict resolution, communicating, right? Allowing that safe space to be built within our relationship, right? Because really, that's where you see you see this thing that's going on right now with Bill Gates and Melinda, right? It all comes down to whether or not your partner feels safe in the relationship. Okay? Bottom line. You see these couples talk about we don't see eye to eye. Why? Because one or both of them don't feel safe. Okay? And so taking that knowledge, right, and applying it to your relationship from like the dating phase, going into the courting phase, going into the relationship, going into the marriage, right, is so important. Okay? Stop blaming the other person. Before you blame the other person, look at yourself. And if you can't say to yourself, this is what I have done wrong in this situation, if you can't identify anything that you could have done better before you go raging an attack on the other person, that is an indicator that you need to do some more groundwork. You need to dig a little bit deeper, right? Because you haven't gone down deep enough. You haven't fully understand the issue. Okay? And so, like our topic said this afternoon, we need to clear the traffic, right? We need to clear the traffic. We need to do some self-reflecting and understand who we are. Are you showing up as a wife, right? And if you are in a relationship and you are that wife, right? Are you being that Proverbs 31 oh my God. Are you being the virtuous woman, right? Just like lost it for a minute. Are you being that virtuous woman, right? Are you his treasure? Are you showing up as his treasure? And if the answer is no, then you need to get back to you. Because, like I said, it begins and ends with you. Okay? All right, y'all. Well, that is all I have for today. I'm so glad that you guys tuned in, and I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow with our first date conversations. I'm so excited. Um, and so before I go, though, I wanted to show you guys a little swag. I got my little swag going on. We have our shirts in. This is for the ladies. And so we have our shirts. We have them in red and we have them in white. So you could order yours. They're going to be on our website. So stay tuned to that. And so tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, we have our first date conversation segment. And so I look forward to seeing you guys then. All right. Peace.